Episode 27, Troubled Waters, first aired February 9th, 1975. It was written by William Driskill, who will be responsible for 2 more future episodes. He also produced over half of the show of Mrs. Columbo for some reason. The story was also written by Jackson Gillis, and we have experienced his Columbo work before, with Suitable for Framing, Short Fuse, Dagger of the Mind, Requiem for a Falling Star, The Most Dangerous Match, Double Shock, and Lovely but Lethal. And today's director is the great Ben Gazzara, who previously directed the episode A Friend Indeed, where we already discussed his other works. This episode begins with a shot of a cruise ship. This ship was built in 1972, originally named Spirit of London, but then later in 1974 it was remodeled and renamed the Sun Princess. This ship was bought and sold and renamed and remodeled more than 5 times. Its ultimate fate was abandonment in 2015 and a year later capsizing and sinking off the coast of Lam Chabang in Thailand on February 27, 2016. Some of it has been removed, but there are still huge scraps of the ship underwater. It's amazing this episode we're about to enjoy together is a perfect time capsule of this ship in its prime. But this ship wasn't the original choice, however. The Columbo producers wanted to film on the same ship that a recent Hawaii Five-0 episode was filmed on, the SS Monterey, a luxury liner owned by the Pacific Far East Line. But they declined after reading the Troubled Waters script because the crime takes place on the ship. They said they didn't really like having the Hawaii Five-0 episode being filmed on their ship either, but at least the crime didn't take place on the ship. They did not want this Columbo episode of murder to take place on their precious ship and tarnish their luxurious and safe image. So then they contacted P&O, who owned the Sun Princess, and they were like, sure, come on over and film your murder show. It so happens that this episode takes place on the Sun Princess's maiden voyage, meaning its first journey after its renaming. Therefore, P&O did make some requests. First, they asked that the filming did not interfere with the normal scheduled operations. And they also wanted to make sure the cruise line would be well promoted, so they had to have full shots of the ship from the outside with multiple angles. They also had to rewrite a few things. One of the major changes was about the locks on the doors. P&O wanted it to be clear that it's not easy to break into rooms all over the ship. Amazingly, the cruise line started advertisement right away for travelers to book their Columbo cruise, with one disclaimer that they may unintentionally show up in the background of the show. That is incredible. I really have no interest in cruises, but I'd book that trip in a heartbeat. Well, anyway, let's stop looking at the ship and start the episode. Surprisingly, the next thing we see is Columbo running through a crowd toward the camera. Is this the soonest we ever see him? I think it might be. We're only 14 seconds into the episode. It's reminiscent of Candidate for Crime's Columbo introduction, but that one took 42 seconds for him to appear. And it's very amusing watching the people in the background. These are not actors, but regular people like you and me. Seems like they were lined up waiting for this moment. Look at these ladies. As Columbo enters the ship, he seems to be frantically looking around for something and having no success. I always wondered if this man in the yellow was okay.
Excuse me, Captain.
I'm the purser, sir, Preston Watkins. Are you making the cruise with us, Mr.
Columbo? Yes, I am. I heard the horn. I can't find my wife. I think she's aboard.
Preston Watkins calls himself the purser, and the purser is a senior staff member in charge of managing cabins, crew, guests, safety, and financial accounts. He's played by Bernard Fox. We discussed his background during his first Columbo appearance in Dagger of the Mind.
Nonsense. I'm the one that's messing up your schedule.
Beg pardon?
Please remember, I do not repeat actors' resumes if we have discussed them in previous episodes. Columbo goes on to describe his wife to Watkins.
She's about this tall. She's got black hair and then wearing it up today. It's like in a bun. You didn't have
We have got 500 passengers embarking, sir.
I can see it's a big boat. Ship, yeah.
Listening to that height and hair description, Columbo is kind of describing Peter Falk's wife at the time, Alice Mayo, and she actually really was on the ship during filming. The 2 largest suites on the ship were reserved for Mr. and Mrs. Peter Falk and Mr. and Mrs. Robert Vaughn. We'll meet Mr. Vaughn soon. Then the actual captain of the ship shows up, asking Watkins what seems to be the trouble, and Watkins says Mr. Columbo has lost his wife somewhere on the ship.
Now, I'm Captain Gibbons. Welcome aboard the Sea Palace. I never forget a name, and I do remember welcoming your wife, and I'm sure that she'll be in your cabin or on the observation deck.
You mean we get to meet a person who has actually spoken to and seen Mrs. Columbo? Yes, this is the first time. Now I've got to know your little argument about how she doesn't exist, those of you who insist she's not real. Captain Gibbon is played by Patrick Macnee, born February 6, 1922, in Paddington, London, England. He's most remembered for his role in every episode of the Avengers TV series, and then, of course, he was in the new Avengers and every episode of Superforce. Also, the movie A View to a Kill.
You saw the notice. Back there. Keep out. You saw it?
Yes.
Well?
Beautiful bright paint. Excellent lettering, easy to read.
Then, out from the background is to us a random couple that we get to learn about.
Oh, Mr. Danziger, it's very nice to have you aboard again.
Captain, I'd like you to meet my wife, Sylvia.
Ah, it's a pleasure.
Mr. Danziger explains to Captain Gibbon that all his guests he has invited aboard are auto dealers and wants to be sure they have a first-rate, top-notch experience on the ship. Gibbon says they all have champagne waiting for them in their cabins.
That's very thoughtful of you, Captain. Thank you.
Have an enjoyable trip. I expect to.
That was a strangely threatening "I expect to." Next is another obligatory outdoor view of the ship as a few credits roll. Into the Danziger cabin, Mr. is asking where his golf gloves are.
No, I haven't seen him. Oh, I guess Johnson forgot to pack them.
I told you I have a match on Tuesday with those dealers from Bakersfield.
You don't have to be so peevish about it.
She points out to the man-child that golf gloves are certainly sold in Acapulco, where the ship will be landing, and he can pick up a pair while they're there.
Darling, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be cross.
Sometimes you are like a spoiled little boy.
And you love it, don't you?
I love you.
He probably didn't pick up on that, but no, she doesn't love his spoiled little boy behavior. It's him that she loves. His name is Hayden Danziger, played by Robert Vaughn, born November 22nd, 1932, in New York City. He was in the films The Young Philadelphians, The Magnificent Seven, The Lieutenant, Bullet, and became internationally known for his role in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Please feel free to list the Robert Vaughn productions you cannot believe I didn't mention, as you do.
Lieutenant, don't try to evade the responsibility. In your parlance, you blew it. You knew the significance of his testimony, yet you failed to take adequate measures to protect him.
Next scene has Columbo on the phone talking to his wife located elsewhere on the ship.
Where are you? What do you mean, where am I? I was in C53. There was a fella in there who was doing sitting-up exercises. Listen, how the hell do I find you?
How are they even talking to each other on the phone if they don't know where the other is? How did they know where to call? And then quick cut to another outdoor shot of the ship, and then a cool view from the bridge where they steer the ship. Danziger is now walking down the hall and unknowingly brushes shoulders with Columbo again on his way to speak to Watkins. He tells Watkins that the steward must have made a mistake by only leaving one room key in his room, where there should be two. Watkins says there's no problem, and goes to open a cabinet full of keys, and Danziger takes a special note.
I see you have all Ving locks.
Yes, that's because the ship was built in Norway, sir.
It's true, Norway did build many cruise line ships, but not this one. The Sun Princess, well, originally the Spirit of London, was built by the Italians, but it was very first originally ordered by the Norwegian Caribbean Line in 1970. But they did not commit to any contracts because of finances or whatever. Then Columbo is walking down the gift shop corridor as Danziger enters his presence for the third time. Columbo decides to ask him if this place has room service because his wife is hungry and their lunch window isn't for another hour.
Well, you go back to your cabin and you push the red button for the steward.
I thought that was for messages, you know, like in a hotel. You see, I've never been on a boat before. My wife won this trip. It was a raffle for the Holy Name Society, so I get the whole thing for nothing.
I love how incredibly obvious Danziger is making it that he has zero interest in what Columbo is saying. And we also learn from this that Columbo's wife is Roman Catholic because she won this trip from a raffle for the Society of the Holy Name. Which isn't really surprising since we know Columbo is an Italian. It's likely Mrs. Columbo is Italian.
You know, we Italians, we gotta stick together.
And Italians are usually Roman Catholic. The society focuses on promoting reverence for the holy name of God and Jesus Christ, encourage personal sanctification, and perform spiritual works of mercy. Anyway, the next scene has Danziger reading a code book, 7th edition. Then he picks up what we will learn later is called a Curtis clipper, used to manually cut blank keys by code. These were usually used by locksmiths, but we do learn he works in car dealerships, so it makes sense that he could get his hands on one of these. This code book must have the Ving Master Key code. And you know, if you want one, they are available to purchase online as well as the code books. The painting next to Danziger is by Van Hoople. I don't know much about him, but he worked in Hollywood and even did some set designs for film. He trained under Cecil B. DeMille's scenic art director and set designer, P.T. Blackburn, at Paramount Studios. Among Cecil B. DeMille's best-known films he directed are The Greatest Show on Earth, Cleopatra, and The Ten Commandments. The next scene are 3 people eating snacks together. The man in the middle keeps looking around.
She'll be here, okay?
Who?
Rosanna. I saw her 20 minutes ago in the arcade.
In the arcade? Well, in 1975, you wouldn't be playing Galaga, Pac-Man, or Donkey Kong yet. Arcades in the mid-70s were mostly filled with mechanical games like pinball, skee-ball, and really cool physical simulation games of driving, piloting, and shooting. There likely was a Pong machine there, too.
You know, it's none of my business.
Probably not.
She'll hang you out to dry.
Artie, I don't tell you how to lead the band, do I?
Oh, and this must be Rosanna, the arcade fanatic.
Excuse me, folks.
The music playing in the background of the scene is Samba de Vero by Marcus Valle. Check please, Mike Lally. This is the 18th time we have seen him. Previously, we know him from Lady in Waiting, Short Fuse, Blueprint for Murder, Etude in Black, Requiem for a Falling Star, A Stitch in Crime, Double Shock, Any Old Port in a Storm, Candidate for Crime, Double Exposure, Publisher Perished, Mind Over Mayhem, Swan Song, A Friend Indeed, An Exercise in Fatality, Negative Reaction, and By Dawn's Early Light. And believe it or not, there are many more episodes to come. Just like in the last episode, By Dawn's Early Light, Mike Lally is our only uncredited actor today. Instead of authentic Citadel students filling the backgrounds, we have authentic Sun Princess passengers. The mustache man goes to sit down next to her. He shares some ideas for them to do together.
I figured we were going to go to Tahoe for a couple of days.
That was your idea.
Well, you give me the ideas.
Lloyd, you're a nice guy, okay?
Okay.
Just leave it alone, huh?
I don't want to leave it alone, babe.
This is Lloyd Harrington, played by Dean Stockwell. Remember, we already talked about him during his first Columbo appearance in The Most Crucial Game.
Hello.
You get off my back. It's over and it's through. I don't want you around me anymore. Now, is that clear enough?
I'll do anything for you, as a matter of fact. If you happen to fall overboard, I'll throw you an anchor.
That tall plant behind them is called a snake plant, but also lovingly known as mother-in-law's tongue. Rosanna Wells is played by Poupee Boucar. I figure it's like toupee, but it's Poupee, I think. She was born August 15th, 1940 in San Diego, California. This is probably her most memorable role. Then the scene switches to Danziger throwing his code book and clipper overboard. I always wondered if Robert Vaughn really did throw these into the ocean, because it sure looks like it. Maybe there was a string attached to them. Now he's walking through the slim halls and enters a cabin room using a handkerchief to open doors and drawers. Something fishy is up. He finds an unlocked lockbox full of receipts, and the name Lloyd Harrington is in there. So now we know whose room he's in. Danziger places inside an invoice from the Silver Gun Shop in Las Vegas, Nevada, for an English .38 caliber. By the way, the musical score today is by Dick de Benedictis. Next, Danziger breaks into another cabin with his master key and takes out a revolver, stashing it away in a top shelf in the closet. Rosanna walks in as Danziger pretends to pat away sweat.
What are you doing here?
Thought you'd be pleased to see me.
I suppose your wife knows you're here. Should I call her and invite her down?
Danziger says his wife has been getting some mysterious phone calls ever since their last weekend in Vegas.
Has she?
I spent 20 years building up my business, and no smart little broad from Pittsburgh is going to take it away from me.
This one is.
She asks, "Where's the money, Hayden?" And he says she'll get it before they dock. He wants her to confirm she hasn't told anyone else about their past relationship.
Oh, use your head. If anybody else knew, I wouldn't have anything to sell, now would I?
I always wondered why they used the punching sound effect for that, because it looks like he open hand slapped her. And this mannequin head is pretending like she didn't see anything. The next scene is at the pool. Danziger tries to act natural, taking off his shirt and rubbing his belly and looking around. Then he coughs and deeply inhales something, yells "ow," and falls in the water. A lady screams, because that's always helpful, and a good Samaritan quickly jumps in the water to rescue him, yelling for someone to get a doctor. Speaking of a lady screaming, the teaser for this episode uses the old "there's a scream in this episode, so you'll not want to miss it," but the one they use in the teaser isn't even the scream in this episode, it's a fake one. Just like the other 2 times we've been lied to in Dagger of the Mind and Candidate for Crime. Tricked again into watching another episode for the tense moment of screaming we apparently all long to hear. Everyone is very entertained by this man having an emergency in the pool. There's laughter and pictures and just a real memorable moment. Well, Danziger is in the medical center with heavy breathing.
The pressure's a wee bit high and the heartbeat's a little choppy. It's likely you suffered a slight heart attack, sir.
A bed has been prepared for Danziger, and he's been tucked in. He shares with everyone his feelings because he needs some more attention.
Feels like I've been kicked by a mule.
And give him another tranquilizer at 11 o'clock. I want you to check Mr. Danziger's pulse and blood pressure every 30 minutes.
This is Dr. Frank Pierce, played by Robert Douglas, born November 9th, 1909, in Bletchley, Buckinghamshire, England. He was both an actor and a director. He will actually be directing a Columbo episode next year. But for acting, he was in Thunder on the Hill, Good Morning, Miss Dove, and The Young Philadelphians.
What I must tell you is as painful to me as it will be for you. Your father availed himself of some of the bank's assets without first observing the conventional forms.
He stole?
Am I the only patient here?
Mm-hmm. We usually don't have anyone until the return. That's when some of the passengers suffer Montezuma's revenge.
I like how gently and sweetly she brings up Montezuma's revenge as a nurse.
Montezuma's revenge.
First of all, Montezuma was the last Aztec ruler defeated by the Spanish conquistadors in the 1500s. So it's called Montezuma's Revenge to be humorous, that he is having his revenge on foreigners. But what exactly is this revenge? Why, diarrhea, of course.
Montezuma's Revenge.
Caused by parasites and viruses after ingesting dirty Mexican food. And if you've got a problem with that, take it up with Montezuma.
Montezuma's Revenge.
The sweet nurse who smiles in the face of Montezuma's revenge is named Melissa, played by Susan Damante, born June 17, 1950 in Palo Alto, California. Find her in The Adventures of the Wilderness Family, The Further Adventures of the Wilderness Family, and of course let's not forget Adventures of the Wilderness Family 3.
Hey, guess what? Everything on this table we provided for ourselves.
You look beautiful.
Moving on to a nighttime view of the ship from above. Lit up and beautiful as a piano begins to play and Rosanna begins to sing Nel blu dipinto di blu, which is Italian for in the blue, painted blue, but more popularly known as volare, meaning to fly. The lyrics were written by Franco Migliacci, inspired by paintings of Marc Chagall, the Red Rooster, and Painter and His Model. His friend Domenico Modugno helped write the lyrics and specifically added the volare part. And Poupee is really the singer here, although what we hear is pretty obviously pre-recorded. Here's one major example of why. With her taking the microphone away from her own mouth for an audience member to sing along, and yet she is the only one we hear. During this little performance, we go back to the hospital area where the nurse is smoking and reading a book. I do wish I knew what she was reading. And in the other room is Danziger watching the clock. We've seen these clocks in the background here and there before. It's a folding travel wind-up alarm clock. They became pretty common in the 60s and 70s. Lloyd had one. So did Poupee. Danziger slides out of bed with a towel and peeks into the hall, seeing the nurse over by the medicine cabinet. He somehow knows that if she's over there, she will not be in the other room anytime soon, with the other cabinet that holds the surgical gloves as he swipes a pair. He hops back into bed, hiding the gloves under him, and pretends to sleep as the nurse walks in with his medicine.
It's time to take your pill.
As she turns to pour him water, he sneaks the pill under the blankets and then mimes putting a pill in his mouth. Slick little fella, isn't he? She takes his blood pressure and says he's normal, and she'll be back at 11:30 to check him again. Heading back to her desk, she grabs another cigarette and returns to her book. Though, if you want to be super observant, when we saw her earlier smoking and reading, that was this moment, but cut in for us earlier to see she's a chain smoker. Back to Rosanna now sitting on a man's lap who is clearly having a good time, laughing it up and red-faced, really enjoying this moment. It always bothered me, though, that she took off his glasses and tossed them away like a hat, rather than treating them as something necessary to function in daily life. Everyone else thought it was funny, though. The man also didn't seem to care because there was a little Poupee on his lap. Back again to Danziger with his handy latex gloves ready to do some kind of dirty deed. He again hops out of bed and puts his pillow under his covers to look like a person from a distance, then sneaks on out with no trouble because the nurse keeps her back to all the doors. And over the speakers, we continue to hear Rosanna singing Volare. We're at 4.5 minutes of the song so far. Danziger starts hustling through the halls and stairs and unlocks a room handwritten labeled Steward's Uniforms. He picks out some clothes and begins to undress. Check out that wicked industrial dry cleaning press. Hopefully it won't be involved with any murders. Well, let's check on Rosanna's progress with her song. We see the man from earlier is the clarinet player and Lloyd is the piano man. Smart to have his hands covered for the piano miming, though he never ever looks down at the keys. Super advanced, I guess. Practicing his Ray Charles. Then Danziger is running down some stairs. These people just love this song. Then Danziger is running down some stairs. Wait. It's the exact same take as earlier. If that cart of food wasn't sitting there, maybe I wouldn't have noticed this as easily. And why is there a cart of food there anyway? Who's hauling food carts up and down stairs? And that was the 6-minute rendition of Volare, which is only 2 minutes longer than the original. But in movie and TV time, 6 minutes is like 20 minutes, so... Did I ever mention that Lloyd Harrington is Dean Stockwell? Oh yeah, well, Dean never forgot the words for this song because how could you? And he got to share his lyrical memory in the future on the 1989 Quantum Leap episode, Double Identity.
Just sing the song, we'll go somewhere private, then these people won't see you talking to yourself like a lunatic.
I don't know the words.
Volare.
Volare.
Oh, oh.
Oh, oh.
Cantare. Oh, 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 oh.
Cantare. Oh, 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 oh.
Now that Volare is finally over, Rosanna heads for the elevator and Lloyd follows her.
I have to change, Lloyd.
Yeah, I know, so do I.
For the last time, will you leave me alone?
I just want to apologize.
Poor Lloyd got strung along. Rosanna sits at her desk to spray on more perfume as Danziger walks in and grabs a pillow. Rosanna turns to look at him and he shoots a gun through the pillow because we're so gullible to believe a pillow is an effective silencer. As Rosanna knocks her lamp off the desk and dies immediately. Danziger stands there a moment with a smoking gun. Well, what's probably actually smoking is the pillow, which surely smells like burnt hair in here from the feathers. He takes her lipstick and draws a shaky L on the mirror. Now the music changes to something a little more urgent, which it really is for Danziger because his blood pressure is checked every 30 minutes and it has been, well, actually only 5 minutes have passed, amazingly. But it's probably been longer within the story. He's in the laundry room where he stashes the gun and some dirty sheets. Then, returning to that stairway with the rolling food cart that lives between the different sets of stairs, Danziger takes advantage of this strange placement to play as a waiter hiding his face with the food tray. Back to the band, wondering what's going on. Where's Rosanna?
Where's Rosanna? Where's Rosanna?
Danziger returns to the steward's uniforms room. We get a really nice look at the sign, noticing again it's handwritten with a red Sharpie on a piece of paper. The band is casually playing Girl from Ipanema while they wait for Rosanna to return. Remember when we talked about that song during Lovely But Lethal?
Here's another variation on the captain theme. This one flowing and soft in a soft print and with its sparkle and glamour.
Looks like the clarinetist is going to go look for her. Danziger is back in his jammies.
Rosanna?
The nurse checks her watch and 30 minutes must have passed, but for us it's been 8 minutes. She walks in and it looks like Danziger was successful.
Lieutenant Columbo, the captain would like to see you right away.
The captain? It's not about my wife, is it? I mean, she likes to have a good time. Sometimes she gets carried away.
It's not about your wife, sir.
It's so funny, Columbo's first thought is that his wife's behavior got out of hand, and now he has to speak to the captain about her. Entering Rosanna's room in silence, Columbo stops and stares at the scene for a moment.
Isn't that the singer?
Lieutenant Columbo, this is Frank Pierce, the ship's doctor. Mr. Fidel, one of our musicians.
Columbo goes to take a closer look. I guess this is supposed to be dried up blood.
The problem, sir, is we have a murder on our hands. We have no lab technicians. We have no printing.
Columbo asks if they could at least get a photographer in here to take some pictures of the crime scene. And the captain gets all worked up because he does not want his guests disturbed. This murder needs to remain quiet.
Yes, sir, I understand your concern, but we have to have photographs.
I could always get Forbes. He's a very discreet chap.
Do that, will you?
Excuse me.
Columbo walks to the bathroom and leans over the toilet, about to be sick.
False alarm.
This painting on the left is a print of Woman from Mallorca by Pablo Picasso. You may have heard of him.
I'll be fine.
Fun fact, all these scenes filmed in cabin rooms were done at Universal Studios in Hollywood because the real ones were too small to fit all the crew and equipment. And all the cabin room scenes were filmed before the ship departed.
Excuse me. Your musicians, they were all on a break when this thing happened?
We always break just after 11.
Columbo makes a point that whoever did this knows the ship's routine and when the band breaks.
I presume you say nothing about this for the moment, Mr. Fidel?
Of course, sir.
Artie Podell is played by Peter Maloney, born November 23rd, 1944 in Chicago, Illinois. You'll certainly recognize him from The Thing.
Sorry, Mac. You have to move your stuff up. Doc says we gotta lock him up. Stash him in here and lock him up.
The captain tries his hand at detective work.
Did you notice the lipstick?
The lipstick? Oh, yes, I saw the lipstick. Looks like the letter L. Burglary sure wasn't the motive.
Columbo asks the doctor where the hospital is located on the ship.
The Rivera deck. You sure you're feeling all right, Lieutenant?
No, sir, I can't say that I am. I think I'll take your purser's advice and drop by the hospital.
I read Peter Falk really did feel under the weather from seasickness, often staying in his cabin after filming. There was a storm during the cruise, and it caused a lot of swaying for the passengers. Here is a quote from Everett Chambers, the producer. "We were still shooting on a rocky ship. Half the crew got sick. Ben Gazzara got sick, but he kept going anyway." And a quote from Ben Gazzara. "Of the 2 episodes I directed, Troubled Waters was an especially good time. It was great watching the actual customers mix with the show folk. We sailed from San Francisco to Puerto Vallarta, and about the only thing that wasn't fun was the vomiting."
Use the lift. Might be easier.
No, sir, I think I'll walk. An elevator is another one of my problems.
Columbo makes it up the stairs, relieving pressure along the way. The nurse asks how she can help him.
I'm feeling a little rubbery. The purser said you'd have something.
She takes him in and has him sit down.
The same thing happened to me last year. My wife and I were checked into this motel with a waterbed. I thought I was going to die.
The nurse goes to the other room with the medicine cabinet while Columbo sits in the chair trying to relax. But he sees something. What an eye that man has. There was a feather peeking out from under the door to the sick bay. Columbo goes back to sit down as the nurse arrives, telling him to drink this brown liquid.
Oh, what is that stuff?
Just to rest and relax for a minute.
She gives him some Dramamine for dizziness and nausea. Columbo asks if she is here all the time.
Well, Dr. Pierce and I are on 24-hour calls. There's always one of us here at all times for the patient in sick bay.
Oh, there's a patient in there now?
It's the gentleman that suffered the heart attack in the pool today.
Then here come some men carrying in the deceased singer. Everyone becomes preoccupied as Columbo observes, so he slowly wanders toward the sick bay door and casually walks in.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I didn't realize anybody was in here.
Who are you? What's going on out there?
Lieutenant Columbo, LAPD. I think we met this afternoon. You see, I've never been on a boat before. My wife won this trip. It was a raffle for the Holy Name Society.
We got a police officer on board a ship?
Oh, no, sir, I'm just here on a vacation. You see, my wife, she's got this incredible luck. I think I told you. She won the whole trip on a raffle.
Lieutenant, please.
Dr. Pierce comes in to scold Columbo to leave Mr. Danziger alone. He's a sick man.
Terribly, sir. I hope you're feeling better, sir.
The doctor hands Columbo the bullet they just retrieved from Rosanna.
Looks like a .38 caliber. Getting shot right through the heart the way she did. Would you say that her death was instantaneous?
Yes, I would say so.
No bruises on the body.
No bruises.
No bruises. I would have thought there might have been a little something from that quick punch earlier. Columbo mentions the L on the mirror and that he's curious how it got there if she had died instantaneously. Maybe they ought to go ahead and find some people that knew her that have names starting with L. Columbo reminds the captain that there is a murderer on board, and he thinks it would be wise to search the crew or the band or anyone who would know the ship's routines.
That's very interesting, Lieutenant. Apparently there is a chap in the band she's had a row with. Name of Harrington. First name is Lloyd.
Scene changes to Columbo questioning Artie Podell, the apparent band leader. He wants to understand their reasoning for the intermission, and Artie explains it's for changing their outfits in between sets, and they do it every night.
And everyone came back on time. Changed and everything.
All except Rosanna.
The music playing during this scene is It's Not Unusual, written by Les Reed and Gordon Mills.
We want to talk to Harrington.
Lloyd? That's crazy. He's a nice guy. He was just out of his league.
Artie informs Lloyd that the captain wants to talk to him.
Oh, what about?
Miss Rosanna Wells. You know where she is?
Well, she was late for the fact she missed the set. I'm a bit puzzled, actually. Is there something wrong?
I'm sorry, sir. She's dead.
Next scene, Columbo is having a look at Lloyd's hands for powder burns. Columbo says he's clean, unless he wore gloves. He says they're going to search his cabin.
What do you expect to find? I don't even own a pair of gloves.
The captain is quite convinced Lloyd was the murderer because he argued with Rosanna. That's all the evidence he needed. He's ready to polish up the gallows.
I think that I must confine Mr. Harrington to his quarters and hold him for the Mexican police.
But Columbo has to bring him back to reality.
Well, sir, we really don't have any evidence, just hearsay about an argument. No powder marks on his hand.
Did you notice someone about to come out of the room behind them, but then closed the door in fear?
Unless we can clear Mr. Harrington positively, I must insist that he be confined to quarters.
Yes, sir.
This is a real rocky scene for these two. That storm must be taking place right now.
Just one more thing, sir. That is Miss Wells's cabin there, is it?
Yes, with a guard on it. I'll see that he keeps an eye on this cabin as well.
And now suddenly we're looking at a gun. I'm feeling skeptical.
And for all you skeptics in the audience, this is a real snub-nose .38.
Oh, okay. More specifically, it's a cult detective special. This is the same gun fired in Candidate for Crime. And a negative reaction.
I'm going to have my assistant Stella fire this magical bullet, putting a hole through a number of cards of this deck and breaking this glass behind me.
Well, this sounds ridiculous, but let's see.
Are you ready, my dear?
Ready.
1, 2,
She's been waiting for this moment.
3. Would you believe? Right through the middle of the card.
Well, the magician is played by Curtis Credell, born October 21st, 1944, in Washington, North Carolina. He was in Firestarter. I love how unimpressed the lady is behind Stella and the gun. And did you notice? Lloyd is sitting at the piano in his tux right after being confined to his quarters by the captain. He just loves magic shows and couldn't stand to miss it. Next, Columbo is keeping an eye on his watch as he hustles down the stairs and over to the cabins of Lloyd and Rosanna. Columbo asks if there's another route to get down here other than the elevator.
No, sir. Great.
Then Watkins shows Columbo what he found in Lloyd's receipt box.
It's for a gun.
Bought a number 5 British Weatherby.
2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. Captain will be quite pleased, don't you think?
Yes, he will. I'm sure he's already fashioned a wooden stool to kick out from under Harrington later on. Another outside shot of the cruise ship showing they do indeed have lifeboats. Next, it looks like Danziger is getting ready to leave the hospital wing. Columbo shows up, saying he's looking for the doctor, and compliments Danziger's healthy appearance.
Sir, I want to apologize for the disturbance last night.
Well, I was already disturbed when they took the body by the door.
Well, that's interesting. He's got X-ray vision.
Is it true what I heard, that someone in the band shot her?
Well, someone shot her. I don't know.
I wouldn't think that you'd have authority out here.
I don't. No, I'm just helping out temporarily.
Then Danziger offers the famous offer of murderers.
Well, if there's anything that I can do...
Well, actually, sir, you can.
Columbo asks Danziger to discreetly check on all his car dealer guests rather than him bothering them.
That might be best. Okay, feel free to call on me if I can be of any help, all right?
Appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much.
Next, Danziger tosses his gloves off the side of the ship, and we immediately move on to the laundry room where the gun is found.
The purser found it in the laundry room.
The purser? Pretty sure it was the laundry guy that found it. Well, we get a really nice clear look at our murder weapon today, and even though this episode calls it a British Weatherby, this is the Webley top break revolver, and did indeed originate in 1887 in the United Kingdom. I think these are so cool because of the way the cartridges are extracted from the cylinder.
Do you mind, sir? You see, the pencil can ruin the grooves, and if you disturb the grooves, it would make a matchup with the bullet very difficult.
Columbo starts whittling a pencil and asks for some paper.
Captain, could you get a mattress up here?
A mattress?
Danziger shows up all of a sudden, and Columbo explains why he asked him here.
Mr. Danziger is helping me out with the investigation so we don't disturb any of his guests. I hope it's all right.
Well, I suppose. We've discovered the murder weapon.
Well, we're not sure yet.
I like how Columbo has to keep reminding the captain that evidence is important.
Now, this is a trick that I learned in the Hollenbeck division from an old sergeant when I first started out.
The Hollenbeck division is just a division of the LAPD. They take care of East Downtown LA.
See, the lab guys, they don't like it. They claim I'm always messing up the evidence.
I'm sure that claim is accurate. It doesn't seem like this would do much for the revealing of fingerprints, but Columbo is pretty confident in its results.
Nope. There's no prints on that gun.
Columbo asks Watkins if he found any gloves, but he says no. The captain knows exactly what they should do to solve that.
We should search Mr. Harrington's cabin again.
Oh, no, sir. You won't find him there.
Poor Lloyd. If Columbo weren't here, the captain surely would have him locked in the brig as he prepared the plank for a walk. Danziger says he gets the feeling Columbo doesn't believe Harrington did it.
Why does a man keep a receipt for a gun that he used to kill somebody with?
Well, maybe he didn't know what he was going to do with it when he bought it.
I doubt that, sir. When people buy guns, they usually have a reason.
They head out to the deck where a mattress was placed. Columbo looks to Danziger and asks, "Would you mind?"
Mind what?
Mind firing the gun into the mattress. I hate guns. Besides, I'm a bad shot. Get it down there and just pull the trigger.
This is just a horrible idea. Sure, a mattress will slow the bullet a little, but it's not going to stop it in the way this episode suggests it does. And then Columbo magically knows where the bullet stopped and digs it out like nothing. He's got the bullet taken earlier from Rosanna floating around in his pocket, so now he can compare them. And what on earth are these? You know, the only part that shoots out of a gun is the little part on the top. That's the bullet. The other part is the cartridge case. And when shooting a revolver, the case stays in the cylinder until ejected, like that little video I showed earlier. These look like some kind of tinfoil arts and crafts bullets. And from looking at these little things through a magnifying glass, which is not sufficient to make a conclusion of any sort, Columbo is certain of his observations.
Oh, it seems to be the murder weapon, all right. Yes, I'd say this is the gun.
Then Danziger goes on a little rant of how obvious everything should be.
You've got the gun, a bullet, proof of ownership, and a young man who felt rejected. It's obvious the musician shot her.
Yeah, maybe so.
I've always been so impressed by this scene's audio. You can see the wind is wild out here, but their voices are very clear. And this doesn't seem to be ADR. It all looks so natural. Columbo turns to the captain, saying he really wants to check the passengers who have made this cruise previously. But the captain says it's not necessary.
There's no point in disturbing the passengers when we already have the murderer.
Plus, he's already re-varnished the yard arm and the noose has been secured. Columbo says he's pretty sure the passengers know what happened.
Besides, when you removed the girl's body from her cabin, you had to travel up 4 flights of stairs.
We used the cruise stairway. It's off limits to the passengers.
Of course.
Columbo thanks Danziger and the captain for their time, and the scene changes to Danziger and friends playing a ring toss game, and Danziger insists Columbo tries it.
Now, you know, that looks like horseshoes, and I'm not very good at horseshoes.
Try it, it's easy.
All right, I try one.
Columbo gives it a shot, and it flies off into the ocean blue.
I'm terribly sorry, sir.
Then Columbo changes the subject, saying Danziger's recovery has been remarkable.
I didn't recover from anything. I've got a hectic work schedule and change over to a tropical cruise. My system temporarily rebelled.
Columbo wonders if they could talk privately.
No problem, fine.
Probably too many years on the force, but I always have the feeling that there's somebody listening who shouldn't be.
The song in the background is When the World Was Young by Philippe Girard. Columbo wonders if any of Danziger's people's names begin with an L. He explains the L with the lipstick on Rosanna's mirror that she must have scrawled before dying.
So you could do me a big favor by checking your people out.
I love how Columbo keeps trying to annoy Danziger about his people and how they need to be checked out.
Isn't your suspect's name Lloyd Harrington?
Columbo says yes, that does have an L in it, but if I can find a passenger who has made the trip previously and whose name begins with an L, I'll have myself another suspect.
Lieutenant, I don't wish to be rude, but I know all of these people personally, and I resent the implication it might be one of my dealers.
Columbo finally shares why he wants to know more about Danziger's people. He reminds him the gun was found in a locked laundry room. Whoever could unlock the laundry room also had to be able to unlock Harrington's room and Rosanna's room, so the murderer either had a bunch of keys or a master key. And who has master keys? The captain, the purser, security, stewards.
It finally hit me. My brother-in-law, he's got an auto repair shop in the valley.
Just like his wife's cousin in the valley.
Listen, my wife's got a cousin in the valley. He owns a body shop. I mean, if you want me to talk to him, they bring in those wrecks. A lot of times they don't have keys. He makes a key. He's got a tool. It's called a Curtis Clipper. I knew you knew that.
Danziger says this is too far-fetched. Anyone with any kind of ingenuity can make a duplicate master. Even Harrington. And besides, Columbo, you said Harrington's gun was the murder weapon.
But he denies owning it, sir.
Naturally. What about the receipt in his room?
I have to feel that somebody planted that, sir.
Lieutenant, I would say that falls in the area of speculation.
I don't think so, sir.
Then Columbo invites Danziger to sit down because he's got all of Harrington's receipts along, and he'd like to show them to him. There are receipts for things like saxophone repair, lead sheets, piano tuning, hotels and restaurants. All these receipts have one thing in common. They represent tax deductions with one single exception.
The receipt for the gun, he can't deduct that. He can deduct all these. So we know why he saved these. For the life of me, I can't understand why he saved this one.
I see your point.
Columbo says there's another thing that's bothering him.
There it is.
There what is?
That's the biggest garbage dump in the world. Why didn't he just throw the gun overboard?
Danziger explains Harrington wouldn't have had time to change his clothes, kill Rosanna, and run to the dock to toss the gun overboard while still making it back to the piano in time. The laundry room was the most convenient place to stash it.
Well, you know, Mr. Danziger, that's a very good theory. That's probably exactly the way it happened.
Danziger excuses himself, saying he wants to get back to his game, and he will look into that L theory.
Mr. Danziger!
My problem is I didn't find any prints on the gun.
He wore gloves.
Why wouldn't he stash the gloves with the gun?
Gloves wouldn't be evidence.
Columbo explains they absolutely would be evidence because they would have traces of gunpowder on them. So if he wore gloves, what happened to them? If he didn't have time to toss the gun overboard, then he didn't have time to toss the gloves overboard.
Well, then there were no gloves.
No gloves.
I mean, the gun was found in the laundry room, so Harrington must have used a towel.
That's a very good thought, sir.
Columbo says he'll think about that towel idea and tells Danziger to have a good game. Now we're back in the sick room. Columbo looks at Danziger's bed, exits the room, and our hurried music from earlier begins to play again as Columbo hustles down the stairs to the door of Rosanna and back up the stairs to the hospital door, which is always locked.
Doctor, could you take my pulse and my blood pressure immediately?
Your pulse is a very high rate, Lieutenant. Sit down, please. Your pressure's high, too.
Columbo hops off the examining table and opens the cabinet.
Do you always keep this open?
Well, there's nothing lethal in there.
Do you know how many pairs of these you have on board?
3 dozen surgical gloves, and we used only the one pair last night.
Columbo counts 10 and figures the murderer might have used the unaccounted for pair.
It's even more evidence against Harrington. He's a diabetic, you know. Comes by here every day for his insulin.
I didn't know. Thank you, Doctor. You've been very helpful.
Now let's go have a chat with Mrs. Danziger. Columbo introduces himself, saying he's working with her husband about the death of the singer.
I was just up at your husband's luncheon. I didn't see you there.
As he puts a big boiled egg in his mouth.
I'm on a diet.
Certainly don't look fat to me. Neither does he. He looks very trim.
Oh, he's never been sick a day in his life.
Yeah, until yesterday.
Columbo sits down and points to someone we don't see, saying slot machines are a big waste of money. He played 40 times and only won once. Mrs. Danziger shares she doesn't care for gambling either. Columbo says, "Really? I figured you and your husband went to Las Vegas often." She says, "Oh, no. Her husband goes often, but she doesn't go with him. She hates casinos."
You're a very broad-minded woman. Letting your husband run off alone like that.
Wrong.
I wouldn't want to be. Not where it counts, not about men, especially my husband.
You're very frank.
Very shrewd, too.
She says she knows what Columbo's getting at. She's an older woman with lots of money, and most of her friends think her husband married her for that money.
So do you. They're wrong, and you're wrong, too. We have something together. It's why we married. It's very satisfying feeling like a woman. Hayden hasn't disappointed me yet. If he ever does, God help him.
Columbo smiles and says it's been nice talking to her. Sylvia Danziger is played by Jane Greer, born September 9th, 1924 in Washington, D.C. She starred in Out of the Past, The Company She Keeps, The Big Steal, and a few episodes of Falcon Crest and Twin Peaks.
Hello, Norma. Mother. I trust those are real potatoes and not flakes.
Real potatoes. Surprised to see you here.
Hey, those are good.
Then Columbo finds the doctor alone in the dining hall because he has a medical question for him.
Would it be possible for someone to deliberately fool you into thinking they had a heart attack?
A powerful stimulant could do it. A large dose of amphetamine, or possibly amyl nitrate.
Columbo wants more information on the amyl nitrite.
Crystals that you break under the nostril. It rushes the blood to the heart. They use them in angina cases.
What kind of cases?
In angina cases.
Oh, of course. That's when there's a reduction of blood flow and oxygen to the heart. The doctor ponders amyl nitrite, as he says it's very possible. Columbo wonders how quickly the crystals work, and the doctor says only a few seconds.
And you say they look something like capsules?
Yes, that's right.
Columbo gets up and heads out to the pool, where there is a lady splashing water on a man, saying she's baptizing him. Columbo finds the pool filter and pulls it out of the water. This lady with the spiky swim cap is enjoying this moment. Oh, and there's Danziger, noticing Columbo snooping around. He finds the capsule Danziger snapped under his nose. There probably should have been a bunch of gross hair and stuff in that filter, too. And Columbo wipes his nose with an "I knew it" smile. Suddenly, we are questioning the nurse about the night of the murder. She explains she was reading a book at the desk with her back to the door.
So Mr. Danziger could have slipped out.
Lieutenant, why do you persist in continuing this investigation? I'm afraid I must insist that you stop bothering the Danzigers or anyone else.
The captain does not want all his execution preps to go to waste. Columbo says, "1 moment, Captain," and shows him the chart of Danziger's pulse and blood pressure taken every 30 minutes since the pool incident.
It's high at the outset, and then it steadies out all afternoon and into the evening until 11:30. And then it jumps back up again with a final entry at 12:10. It's back to normal.
The captain wants an explanation for this from the doctor about these fluctuations. The doctor says yes, he noticed it, but since it steadied back out again, he figured there was no need for alarm. But he doesn't know the reason for its happening.
I think it's the result of Mr. Danziger's running up the crew stairwell all the way from the captain level to the hospital level and getting back into bed before the nurse arrived.
The doctor says that Columbo is forgetting the fact that Danziger's cardiac symptoms were undeniable. Then Columbo takes out his ace in the hole.
But these are still wet. I pulled them out of the pool filter.
Amyl nitrate?
The doctor tells me that if you pop these in front of your nose and take a deep breath, your pulse and your blood pressure is going to go sky high.
Sudden scene switch to Columbo walking through a crowd of very oddly dressed characters. What do we all have here? A patient on crutches? A little Mexican with a cactus? A ghost? An ancient Greek or Roman? The Lone Ranger? Bo Peep? A lady with a UK flag and beer cans and a liquor bottle with a sign that reads Union Jack Barfly? A Hawaiian? And I think Raggedy Ann? Quite the group. On the deck, the music in the background is called Undecided, a popular jazz song written by Sid Robin and Charlie Shaver in 1938, and a fitting title for the guest's apparel. I think Columbo must be searching for Danziger, and it looks like it's going on midnight.
Excuse me, Mr. Danziger. Can I see you a moment? How about in the bar?
Have you noticed that Columbo mispronounces Danziger's name the whole episode? He throws an extra N in there and calls him Danziger. Now we're at the bar.
Okay. Get 2 scotch and water. 2 scotch and water. Right there. Right.
Thanks, Mike Lally.
Mr. Danziger, yesterday when you were in the ward, did you see that musician Harrington around the hospital?
I didn't see him.
That's too bad, sir. I was hoping we could find someone who saw him with the gloves.
Danziger says, "I thought we decided there were no gloves." And Columbo says, "Well, it sounded good until I checked the hospital. There's a pair of surgical gloves missing. I figured Mr. Harrington must have taken them."
You think he wore gloves when he killed her?
Danziger asks, why does Columbo think surgical gloves? Why not any other kind of glove?
I asked my wife. She didn't pack any gloves. Now, I'll bet Mrs. Danziger didn't pack any either.
Danziger is reminded of his frustrations about his little golf gloves not being packed.
You don't have to be so peevish about it.
We're going on a tropical cruise. Who packs gloves?
Now that I think about it, I wonder if Danziger was originally intending to use those golf gloves during the murder. Well, I don't know, maybe not. I'd think he would make doubly sure that they were personally packed rather than relying on Johnson, the suitcase packer.
Oh, I guess Johnson forgot to pack them.
Columbo says he searched every inch of the ship and cannot get those elusive gloves to materialize. He doesn't actually say it like that.
You're a stickler for details, Lieutenant. Look, I hope I'm not boring you with all this, but it helps to talk it out. Not at all, no.
Columbo says right now, since there are no fingerprints on the gun, we're still at square one. He says he's going to keep working on this case till it's finished. The case will not be closed until he can find those gloves.
I will keep on something until it's finished. It's a very admirable quality. That's my nature. I'm sure you're built the same way. Well,
Columbo is laying this trap out really, really thick.
that's why I gotta find the gloves. I gotta find the gloves with the powder burns on the outside.
He's giving Danziger crystal clear subliminal instructions.
Because when I find them, that's when I can prove why Mr. Harrington's prints weren't on the gun. I don't know why I'm bothering you with all this. It's my problem.
Columbo's so funny.
I have to get back to my wife.
Oh, she must be outside there. So Danziger sneaks back up to the hospital, somehow knowing the nurse isn't going to be here right now. He swipes a pair of surgical gloves, heads to the back of the lounge where the magician's trunk is kept. Interestingly, it says Curtis Credell on it, which we know is the actual name of the actor who played the magician. It seems to be unlocked. Inside is the Colt Detective Special revolver. You know, why wasn't the magician ever checked out? Shouldn't about everyone know he has a revolver that happens to shoot the same caliber as that particular model of Webley we've all been so obsessed over? Well, anyway, that's not important right now. What is important is that Danziger knows how to access every single location on the ship. He's now strolling through the abandoned engine room, where it's good and loud. There just happens to be a big sack of sand in here. I guess he knew those were kept down there. He shoots into it without any attention. All we hear is the engine. Actually, quite a clever idea he had. Then, back in the cabin hallway, he stashes the powder-burned gloves inside the fire hose roll. Another outdoor shot. Looks like it is early morning now. We must be about to arrive at the Mexican destination. There's land ahead. Mr. and Mrs. Danziger are having breakfast.
What's the matter, darling? Keep looking at your watch.
Nothing, just checking the time.
Then over the loudspeaker, the captain makes an announcement that they are going to have a fire drill and the passengers can ignore it, as it's for the crew to practice drills only. One of the crew lugs out that big fire hose, and amazingly, the purser is right there to witness the gloves falling out.
Wait a minute. Fetch the captain.
Next scene is Columbo with his magical magnifying glass humming This Old Man.
You wanted to see me, Lieutenant? Look what the captain found. He found the gloves.
Now, if you can find powder marks on them, you've got your final proof, haven't you?
Yes, sir, it certainly will.
Columbo begins to scrape the pencil lead onto some paper, just like he did earlier when looking for fingerprints. The captain questions why he's doing that. Doesn't he need paraffin to pick up powder marks? Columbo says, yes, you do. And I'm sure those are powder marks. But that's not what he's looking for right now.
It's just that I'm after something else. What I'm after is not on the outside of the glove. It's on the inside of the glove.
Columbo seems extra jolly about this situation, really savoring this moment with Danziger's presence. He carefully turns the glove inside out and then methodically explains what he's up to.
You see, if the killer had worn leather gloves, all we could hope for is powder marks. But surgical gloves, they're different.
He delicately places the glove on the pencil lead shavings.
The texture retains both fingerprints and palm prints.
Danziger's probably starting to feel a little seasick at this point. Columbo shows the glove to him, displaying a clear fingerprint. Well, not really clear to us as a viewer, but it must be clear in person.
Big as life. Now, whoever print that is, that person shot and killed Rosanna Wells. But that print is not Mr. Harrington's print. I have a set of Mr. Harrington's prints.
The sheer disappointment on the captain's face. All that execution prep, wasted. Columbo confirms the print on the glove does not match Lloyd Harrington's print with the all-knowing magnifying glass.
No, they don't match.
I really love the concrete, matter-of-fact conclusions Columbo gets every time from this magnifying glass.
No good. I can't find any deposits on his hands. Nope. There's no prints on that gun.
Well? Oh, it seems to be the murder weapon, all right.
No, they don't match. This is a very good magnifying glass you have here.
Then Columbo slides the paper over to Danziger while humming This Old Man some more.
Mr. Danziger, Would you place the index finger of your right hand in that graphite, and I think maybe we can wrap this whole thing up very quickly.
That is my friend.
Danziger says, well, suppose I told you that I deliberately placed those gloves in the fire hose, and both the captain and Columbo look at him asking, why in the world would you do a thing like that? And there were powder marks on those gloves, the captain says. Doesn't that mean they were used while firing a gun? And Columbo says, yes, sir, it does.
That would mean that you would have had to have found the gun, gone someplace where a shot couldn't be heard, fired the gun, taken the gloves, and hit him under a fire hose. For what reason?
Danziger is left speechless for quite a while, shifting in place and blinking. He finally breaks the awkward silence by asking Columbo, how did you find out?
This feather, sir. I found it in the corridor of the hospital.
Danziger looks at it annoyed, saying, that could have come from any pillow in the hospital. But Columbo says no. They don't use feather pillows in the hospital because it can irritate allergies. All the pillows in the hospital were foam.
When you fired the gun through the pillow, this feather stuck to some portion of your body and it dropped off when you walked back to the hospital.
Yes, it really would have been stuck to his actual body, too, because remember, he changed his clothes after shooting her. It's a miracle that feather even hung on.
The police launch is coming alongside, sir.
Escort Mr. Danziger to the lower deck.
Yes, sir.
Hand him over to the officer in charge.
Very good, sir.
God help him.
I get such a kick out of these white shorty shorts and tube socks. Quite the uniform. Next, Columbo's running around again looking for his wife.
Excuse me, Purser, have you seen my wife?
As a matter of fact, she's looking for you.
She's looking for me. How do you like that?
That man back there is so excited to be an important character on Columbo.
Isn't that your wife getting into the launch?
Do I still have time to catch that ship?
Yes, you can. And, Lieutenant, that's a boat.
Oh, that's a... To hell with it.
Yes, it's a complicated concept, I know. Well, our episode has ended, and I've got to know now. What do you, Mrs. Columbo deniers, have to say about this one, now that we've met more than one person who knows what she looks like and have interacted with her? We are teased with the potential chance of getting a glimpse of Mrs. Columbo in this episode. The writers did consider the idea of finally showing her in the last scene, but ultimately decided against it. And there was a draft written that I really wish they had kept, because I think it was a funny and clever little idea that again does not show Mrs. Columbo, but toys with it. So, one of the drafts had Columbo just finished solving the case and he heads back to his cabin. When he opens the door with his head down, we see a middle-aged woman brushing her hair in front of the mirror, with her back to us. Before Columbo looks up, he says, "Come on, honey, we'll go ashore." The woman turns with a scowl, saying, "I beg your pardon." Columbo, shocked, says, "Oh, where's my wife? Isn't this C-53? And she responds with, "This is the port side, C-52. Columbo sheepishly apologizes, backing out of the doorway. Then, cutting to Columbo among the crowd of passengers searching for his wife, he finally sees her, and waving, he yells, "Honey, wait for me," with a freeze frame of Columbo waving to his beloved wife. Obviously, this draft was not edited to have all the doors locked since it was scrapped. So originally, the next script in line to be filmed after, By Dawn's Early Light, was supposed to be an episode about a dentist as the murderer. If you are familiar with the Columbo comeback episodes of the 90s, you'll recognize the title, Uneasy Lies the Crown. Yes, that was originally a 70s episode, and it kind of feels like it when you watch it. Gazzara was still meant to direct that episode, but Peter Falk didn't really think an episode about a dentist was going to be very good, so the script was filed away. How about an episode on a cruise ship instead? And Gazzara was happy to switch it up. This episode is one of the few times Columbo shows up before the murder takes place. Previously was... well, there are some double murder episodes where he arrives before the second murder, so I guess I'll include those too. And that would mean we start with Murder by the Book, where he arrived after Jim Ferris was killed, but before Lily Lysenko. The Greenhouse Jungle, he arrived way before Tony Goodland was murdered. Suitable for Framing, he arrived after Rudy Matthews' murder, but before Tracy O'Connor's. Dagger of the Mind, he arrived after Roger Haversham's murder, but before Tanner's. A Stitch in Crime, he arrived after Sharon Martin's murder, but before Harry Alexander's. In The Most Dangerous Match, he arrived before Tomlin Dudek was murdered. In Double Shock, he arrived after the Clifford Paris murder, but before Lisa Chambers. In Lovely But Lethal, he arrived after Carl Lessing's murder, but before Shirley Blaine's. In Candidate for Crime, he arrived way before Harry Stone's murder. In Double Exposure, he arrived after Vic Norris was murdered, but before Roger White's. In Publisher Parish, he arrives after Alan Mallory's murder, but before Eddie Kane's. In A Friend Indeed, he arrives after Janice Caldwell's murder, and so do we actually, but before Margaret Halpern's murder. I don't know why I felt the need to list all of those, but that's the way the mop flops. Alright, back to business. Notice in the credits they specifically thank the Princess Cruise and staff of the Sun Princess. That's nice. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Robert Vaughn was 5 foot 9 inches tall. Have I rated this episode yet? I haven't. Oh, well, I give this episode 5 Columbo cigars out of 5. I have always been so entertained by this one. I think it's really funny and very well presented. Although I never found the "it's a ship, not a boat" joke very funny. That had to be sprinkled throughout the episode.
I can say it's a big boat.
Ship.
Ship, yeah.
The photographers that I see around the boat snapping pictures. It's a ship, Lieutenant.
Isn't that stupid of me not to know that you have a cruise stairway that runs throughout the boat?
Ship.
Ship, sir.
Do I still have time to catch that ship?
Yes, you can. And, Lieutenant, that's a boat.
Oh, that's a...
But you know, that's the way the ball bounces. Well, for my final moments of the video, let's look at some alternate titles for this episode from different countries. Finland, Vacation at Sea. West Germany, Dream Ship of Death. Italy, Murder on Board. Japan, The Silent Sea of Lost Songs. Russia, Death in the Ocean. Coming up next is Playback.